Hi, this is Sue, and we're going to be working on word problem proportions from Chapter 6, Section 2 on page 287. We're going to start with number 42. The question asks us to tell whether each pair of the ratios form a proportion. Just to briefly review, a ratio we know is written in the form of a fraction. So here we see two fractions, two ratios. When a ratio is equal to another ratio, that is known as a proportion. Okay, so I want to know if 9 over 27 is equal to 15 over 40. Okay, how I know that is if I look at both fractions, there's several ways to do that. I can look at how these two are related and these two, if they're in the same relationship. I can look at if the 9 and the 27 have the same relationship as 15 and 40. Okay. I can do cross multiplying to see if they are, if I multiply them together, if they're equal. Now I like to always look at it first as each fraction. I like to always simplify. If the numbers are smaller, then I'm able to do a quicker comparison, and the numbers happen to be smaller and they're easier to do comparisons. So here I'm going to simplify 9 and 27 both by dividing by 9, giving me 1/3. If I divide 15 and 40 both by 5, I get 3 over 8. Okay, and now I want to see if these two fractions are equal to one another. Now I don't seem to see I can see that 1 times 3 gives me 3, but if I take 3 times 3, that doesn't give me 8. Okay, so I know that that's not true. So here my answer is no because of that reason. Also another reason could be because I cross multiply 1 and 8, giving me 8, and then 3 and 3 giving me 9, and 8 is not the same as 9. Okay, so that's another way to prove that in number 42 those are not ratios, or not, sorry, proportions. Okay, problem number 30. I'm sorry, somehow the numbering's got really weird here. I'm going to try to work on the side. Okay, on number 35 from the textbook. I want to compare these two fractions, 120 and 144. I want to know if it's equal to 145 over 75. Now, first of all, remember, I want to compare these two. I can always compare numbers, okay? I can look and compare these two to each other. This one is the bigger number in the denominator. I'm going to compare these two. It looks like 145 is bigger, so automatically just looking at that, I know that they're not equal. Not equal. Okay, when I look at that. So that is clearly also a no. Now if I choose to maybe simplify, I can simplify this fraction, divide by 4, this one by 4, giving me 30 over, I don't think that divides by 4. 38. I can divide it again by 2, giving me 15 over 19. Okay, and then I have this fraction over here. I can divide both by 5, giving me 29 over 15. And if I look at these two fractions and I want to see if they're equal, again, I'm seeing that if these two just don't look equal. Like if I maybe cross multiply 29 times 19, those are pretty big numbers compared to 15 and 15. 15 and 15 is definitely going to give us a smaller number than 19 times 25. So even just looking at that, if I use cross multiplying, I can see that those are also not a proportion together. So it's still a no answer for here. Many ways to think about these kinds of proportion questions. Okay, number 47. Now we're going to look at some, I guess, word problems. Not so many words here for 47, and then set it up. Now I can choose to set it up as ounces over dollars, equal to another fraction with ounces over dollars. Okay, I can choose to do dollars over ounces equal to another fraction as dollars over ounces. So this is set up number 1. I can set up number 2 in this way. I could also do a setup I'm just going to do these two setups actually. Okay, so here I get 3 ounces, giving me $1.65 for 3 ounces. I want to know how much 5 ounces will cost, so I'll use X dollars for that part. The second setup is just everything flipped around. Okay, my answer won't differ if I choose to do it one way or the other way. So just choose one way to write it. For tonight's homework, you don't have to copy the questions. As long as you set it up correctly and then work out your answer, that's fine. So from here, I'm going to cross multiply. When I multiply 165 times 5, I'm going to not use a calculator. Please practice doing that without a calculator. Okay, and then I get it 8. My decimal should go in between, because there's 2 spaces here, I'm going to go from the back and go 1, 2 spaces in, and you get 825. That means 825 is going to equal the other side that I cross multiply, 3x, so 3x. Then I'm going to take the 3, divide that with the 825. So looking at that fraction, I know that the number on the top goes into the box, or top in, bottom out. So 825 goes in, 3 goes out. Then I'm going to do division. I get 2. Not using a calculator here because I know that's not going to help me on a test. So that's my answer, 275. 275 what? Dollars. So I'm going to put a dollar sign in the front, box my answer. There's my answer for number 47. 46, actually. This is problem 46. The numbers are all kind of getting mixed up here. I'm so sorry. And then we're going to work on 51. Oh, I don't know if that's 51. Actually, this is problem number 49. I don't think it's for homework, but if you wanted to try it as a challenge question, this fraction here, you would just make it 2.5. And you can have fractions in a fraction or a decimal in a fraction. Okay, so if you wanted to try 49, you could set it up like this and then work it out from here. Okay, and then do your cross multiplying. So you're just going to be using the decimal 2.5 to multiply with 100. I'm not going to actually explain this question right now. I'm going to move on. This is the last question I'm going to do. From here, the sentence, I'm going to quickly pick out the information I need. I see that the 2 things I'm making a ratio for are posters and how much they cost. So I'm going to do P over dollars. In my other fraction, I'm going to do the same thing, P over dollars. I like to label it so I don't put the numbers in the wrong place, and I can always double check. Now, I'm going to highlight here, 3 posters are 960. So I'm going to do 3 posters over 9.60. Okay, and then I'm going to do that's equal to posters over dollars for here. I don't know how many posters there are, so I'm going to put X for P, and then I do know that I have $48 that I can spend on the posters. So from here, I'm going to work this out. I'm going to cross multiply. You know, before I cross multiply, I did want to check to see if I could simplify, and it does look like that this fraction here I can, so I'm not going to cross multiply yet. Let me erase that. I'm going to divide both of these by 3. Yay, then my number will be smaller. So I will get 1 poster actually costs 3.20, and how did I get 3.20? I took 960 and divided that by 3, giving me 3.20. Okay, then my numbers will be smaller. I like having 1. When I do have a 1, you know, the 1's going to help me with multiplying. Here we go. Cross multiply that, I get 48. Cross multiply that, the other side, I get 3.20 times x. Put in the middle my equal sign. Here's the equation that I solve. Okay, so I'm going to take the 3.20, divide it with the 48. Here's where it gets tricky, where we have trouble sometimes dividing. This fraction is going to tell me to put the top number in the box. Okay, so over here I'm going to do some dividing. 48 in the box, 3.20. Now I'm just going to take 3.2. I'm going to drop the 0. It's not going to make a difference, but it's just going to help my numbers be a little smaller. So then the numbers I'm going to work with are the decimal just moving 1 space and then putting a decimal in front of the 8 going back and then moving it one space and adding a 0. So then what I'm really going to be dividing is 48 with 320. 320. Okay? Now, I'm looking at 320 and 48, and I do realize those are pretty big numbers. I really don't like to work with big numbers. So what I would love to do instead is to, I'm sorry, those are the wrong numbers. 332 and 480. I want to actually, I could simplify those. Why don't I divide both of them by 4? Okay? So really, remember this is a fraction. This is a fraction that looks like 480 over 32 that I'm really just simplifying. Okay, you don't have to, but I'm going to choose to because it's really going to help later. If I divide both by 4, I will get, for 480, I'm going to get 120. For 132, I'm going to get 8. I can even divide both of them again by 4, giving me 30 and 2. Wow, that's even easier to divide. 30 divided by 2, that just means half of 30, which is 15. So my answer here is 15, yeah, posters. Thank you. Okay, and you can see how it can actually be easily done if we always keep simplifying numbers. If I were to divide this, I could still get 15. My numbers would just be much larger. Okay? All right. Have a great night.